Welcome to Tech Tales with Ben Tchoubineh. This is your front row seat to the stories behind today's most innovative tech leaders. Each episode dives deep into the journeys, challenges, and victories of those shaping the future of technology. From startup struggles to breakthrough moments in seasoned leaders' lives, grab a cup of coffee and join us as we uncover the human side of tech, one story at a time. Now I have a light. You see that?
I do.
I've added my light.
That is
And
impressive. Would you like?
and I've got a mic and everything.
Oh man,
Because
you
my
are.
first episode was like pretty horrible. The sound was really bad, and poor Jim, he had to deal with that. But I'm getting better. I'm getting better. It's the step-by-step continuous improvement is the way I like to go. Right.
I'm glad
And
to be
then
part of that process.
yes, well, you're my third guest, which means that, three's a charm, right? So it's
There you
gonna
go.
be way better. All right, this is Claude Williams. This is episode 3. Claude is a brother from another mother, and as you can see, it's definitely another mother.
We get mistaken for twins all the time. What are you talking
Yeah,
about?
I know. It's like, hey, wait a minute, you guys look so much alike. No, but in fact, we're actually the same age, believe it or not. Even though, look at him, he looks so much younger than I do. It's terrible. But the fact is, we are business partners. Full disclosure. And you start these things with people who right? But honestly, Claude and seeing Claude's achievements, Claude's work ethics, Claude's values, and just how hard you work and how successful CyNtell is at this point. Um, just I'm very proud to be a partner, first of all, and I think people really should hear your story and the rules you live by and what you're doing these days. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to learn a lot about you and your background, how you got to where you are now. And also we're going to learn about CyNtell and the things you guys are getting into. And what gets you going, what makes you tick every day and the rules you live by. And so it's going to be a great recording. I'm sure we're going to have a great time. So Claude Williams, Chief Executive of CyNtell, a cybersecurity provider. Welcome to our very established podcast since it's our third episode. In any case,
Thank you.
I'm so glad you're here. Claude, first of all, let's start with where you started. You just told me something that I didn't know that
Mm,
I'm really impressed by, that you started a computer club in 8th grade in middle school. That's
yes.
crazy. Because remember, we're the same age, even though you don't look it. You look like 15 years younger than I do. That's like in the 80s when people didn't have
Yes.
computers. You started a computer club. Where did that come from?
Well, first of all, Ben, thank you very much, and I am honored to be a business partner with you, to honestly to be a friend, a part of your family, man. You've always been, you've always been someone that I absolutely love because of your heart. You've got the
Thank you.
biggest heart that's out there,
Thank
and
you.
I've seen you grow, which I'm very proud and honored to be a part of. So thank you for having me here, but for everything that you've done for me, my family. I really greatly value you as a person,
I
no
appreciate
doubt
that.
about it. So,
Same here.
and as far as my computer journey, if you will, yeah, you're right. I started in 8th grade, and it was kind of interesting because I hate to say it, but I kind of suckered my grandma into, propelling me into the computer industry because all my friends were, this is the 80s. So arcades are, Pac-Man and you've got Galaga, Galaxian, all these different games. So I know I'm dating myself, anybody who's our age, but arcades were the big thing. And then folks were actually buying their kids game systems for their homes for Christmas and birthdays and that type of thing. So I had a buddy down the street, my best friend growing up. He got an Atari, and he had all kinds of games on his Atari, but they did not look like the arcade games. They were like, they were okay and they were fun to play for hours and hours, but they just didn't look like the arcade game. So I found out that if you actually got the Atari computer, you would get graphics that were very much like the arcade. So I went to my grandmother and I said, Grandma, I'm really interested in computers because I know my mom's in computers. You think I could get a computer? And so I got her to buy me an Atari 400. So anybody our age might know what an Atari 400 and the 800 is, and those were actual computer platforms. But the beautiful thing about it is the graphics were amazing. So while he was playing games like what I called Munchman, it didn't look anything like Pac-Man. My buddies would come over to my house to play the real Pac-Man, the real arcade-looking version.
Which to us, the arcade-looking version of Pac-Man, I mean, right now it's like a classic and it's very basic,
Yes,
obviously, to today's
yes.
standards. But back then, it was like, holy cow, this is
Oh,
amazing.
oh yeah, man, absolutely. And so, but the thing about it was that because it had a keyboard, because it actually had, BASIC, the language called BASIC on it, I started to play around with programming a little bit. And I kind of liked, the idea of kind of creating my own output and my own graphics. We called them sprites back then. We didn't call them like, the kind of graphics we have today. And I started to enjoy that. And I started reading books on it and trying to figure out how to get better, how to create my own games and all that. And so by the time that was about sixth grade, by the time I was in eighth grade, I was pretty good at, making kind of my own little games, question games. You'd have games like Zelda, where it would be a quest to some degree, where you'd say, okay, go open that door, and then it would open the door, and it would give you some feedback and all that good stuff.
That's right.
So to make a long story short, I said, well, what if I invited folks that were in my middle school to join like an after school club where we could share ideas and figure out how to make games and stuff like that. And that's what I did. And the one of the math teachers there, a man named Mr. Moore, I remember him very well, said, yeah, let's go ahead and do that. And you run it. And I just enjoyed interacting with folks. I enjoyed the process of creating games and imagining a new world and what we could do. And it kind of spearheaded two things. One, helping people. I love to help people, so I became a trainer. Two, it helped my computer understanding. What exactly is a computer? What's a motherboard? What's a monitor? How do these things communicate? I just got intrigued by all of that. So that's kind of how everything started. It was eighth grade. Now, I
Wow.
did go in some different directions, but I always came back to technology.
In high school, you got into music. Do you think that has to do with your love of technology and combining that with music? And was it technology or was it
No, it
not at
was
all?
women.
You kind of got
It,
away from it.
it was girls. It was girls.
Oh,
It was girls, man. Let's be honest. Back in that day, again, if you're familiar with, if you're our age, you had New Edition, you had all these boy groups that were getting together, and they were getting all the ladies. The ladies were falling out for them, and so a couple of my buddies, we got together and we created our own boy band, so to speak. None of us played really any real instruments, but we had some good voice. We had some voices in here. I could write music pretty well. I'm kind of a baritone, so I could deal with the deep stuff. And we put together a singing group. And we actually were pretty successful. We worked with a guy. We met in the studio, and he was very good at orchestrating music. So we would come in with some lyrics, and we would say, "Can you can you put a tune to this?" And we developed our own style. It was kind of a house music, if you're familiar with that, out of Baltimore, kind of
oh yeah.
what they were called today, electric, EDM or something like that.
Yeah.
It was that
Back
with
then it was house and techno. That's what we
yes,
called it.
exactly,
Yeah.
techno. That's the word. And we put rap on top of it, right? And so it was kind of it was in that area where there wasn't a lot of artists doing that, and we had a lot of success. We actually were
So you
published.
combine techno and rap? I want to hear
Yes.
this.
Oh my, no, I'm not doing it. Nice try. I have to play it to you privately, okay?
Yeah.
But yeah, the thing was that we were able to produce music that actually ended up on television. So Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, they would show someone's crib, and in the background would be our music playing.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that was kind of cool. And then there was a TV show called Life Goes On. And the star of that actually goes to a nightclub, and guess whose music is playing in the background? Our music. But that
Wow.
launched my first business, which was called Intense Music, where we did music publishing. Because you know what? Every time we went to talk to someone about becoming, like that boy band, they would say, "We love the music, we hate all the voices."
But
So
you had a good voice in your mind.
I
Yeah.
still do have a good voice in the shower.
So do I, man. So do I. But I'm not. But the fact, okay, so this is cool. So this was your first business.
Yes.
Uh, how old were you when you incorporated? Let's put it that way.
I want to say it was 19. I was 19 at the time.
19.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. Were there any, I guess at 19, you don't know enough to be scared or to be worried or to
No,
be, concerned about anything. You just want to do it and you just, you're excited, you're happy, everything's going to be great. Um, what were some of the lessons you learned with that being your first business?
that's a great question. First of all, um, in creating this business, I learned everything I could about the music business. I read books. I still have them around the corner here in my library of everything about music publishing, promotion, the whole nine yards. I didn't want to get into being, kind of an R&D guy. I didn't want to get into being a manager. I really like the music side of it. So I read everything about the music publishing business, right? And then I tried to go out and meet people. I don't know if you remember Milli Vanilli. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So I met their
Aren't
producers.
they the ones who got in trouble because
They did get in trouble.
yeah,
They were lip syncing,
they were lip
right?
syncing. But like, doesn't everyone do lip sync right these days? But back then it was a big deal.
Well, all the voices on their actual tracks weren't theirs. So
Ah,
not
that's what it is.
not only were they lip syncing, they never actually sang a tune ever.
Ah, okay, okay.
They were
That's
just the
that was
front
it.
people. Yeah, they were just the front people. So I met their producers and we talked about music publishing. They listened to a few of our tunes and we started to sign up artists. So that's the first time I learned about contracts, right? Contracts became very important in the music business. So we had to sign artists. We also had to sign relationships with these producers. I mean, I learned about contracts, reading them, understanding them. That was a lesson learned. Um, I got into business with another guy. It was a partnership. So I learned about partnerships, the give and take in partnerships. And he had something he called band pages. He was telling bands to post their music to a website, and then
When
people
was
would
this?
subscribe.
So this is by
What?
now, this is like the mid 90s then, right?
Yes, it is. Websites were just beginning. Man, we could have been the first Napster if a Napster, what was it, Napster?
Napster, yeah.
Yeah, we could have been the first Napster had we been able to get along as partners, but we didn't get along very well. So I learned something about relationships and how to honestly be fair with another person. And you've taught me this even more over the years, which is how to be honest, right? If you don't like something or you don't think you don't agree with it, don't hold back. Put it out there, let it be known, and then work through it. It doesn't mean the end of the partnership. Where in those days I wasn't mature enough to really grasp that. I thought it's either my way or your way, and we're not doing it your way, so we got to part. So
Right. Instead of the win-win approach, right?
exactly.
And yeah, so you were distributing other people's music.
Yes.
What was kind of the event that said, okay, to you, all right, this isn't gonna work, this isn't working, and you moved on from that?
Well, money and girls. I wasn't getting them that way. I really wasn't getting them that way. But in all honesty, I'd met my soon-to-be wife in high school. So we've been together now. I better get this right. 35, going on 36 years coming
My
up.
goodness.
And
Wow, that's amazing.
so the aspect of doing it for women or to get noticed, that kind of went out the door. And she actually got into the business with me. So there's a few tracks that she's on that we produced over the years, which is always fun to listen back on.
That's
But
so cool.
I would tell you that it was enough money. It was good spending money because we were published by BMI, which was the big clearinghouse for music and stuff, and tracking copyright use. But it wasn't enough money, so I needed a real job. That's really what it came down to, and I just got away from the music business. And I'll say one more thing: the music business. I don't know how it is today. I kind of feel the same way. My son's in it. It was dirty, man. I mean, we dealt with a lot of shady folks in the music business, a lot of shady folks, and I never felt like I was ever um, getting someone who was truly being honest with me. It seemed like everybody was obviously out for self, and that's not my value system. I was starting to grow and really understand who I was and who I wanted to be, and I didn't want to be in an environment like that. So, we dealt with a producer of Crisscross. I don't know if you remember those
I do.
guys,
I do.
and are dealing with them, and we put together this promotional party when they came to DC, and it was all powered by intense music. So I learned how to do big things, but the problem is that in the midst of that was stuff that I didn't want any part of. I mean, I just wanted nothing to do with that. So that I started to pivot away from the music business and go back to my love of eighth grade, which was, technology.
I've actually been very lucky that in my life at least, and maybe it's the kind of business we're in, cybersecurity, education, those kinds of things, that I've really only worked with very honest people,
Mm,
and it's just been, or at least I've been lucky. The partners I've had, including yourself, have just always been very honest, very forthright, very based, driven by ethics in their work and in what they do. It's hard for me to imagine an environment where you gotta look behind your back all the time and you can't really trust most of the people, or you know, as a general rule, you can't really trust on face value.
yeah.
Um, so the computer industry, um, such a broad thing and such a huge future when you got into it in the 90s, right?
Yes.
Where did you get into, and what was kind of like the path that you started in and where you ended up?
That's also I have plenty of these stories, man. I mean, my life has been blessed. I can't say anything greater than it's just been blessed, and things have lined up. I ended up uh, when I was in college, I ended up meeting someone who had a job at this company, and they did litigation support in DC, and said, "Hey, they're hiring. Do you want to come and check it out?" Well, they were paying $6.87 an hour. Okay, and
Wow,
I'm
a
thinking,
fortune.
right? But you know what? It's 40 hours, and I'm like,
Yeah.
that's pretty good money, So, I went ahead and I interviewed for the job. Um, and this is the type of worker I am. I put 100 and, I put 100% and more as much as I could. And I quickly was elevated. But one of the things that they noticed about me is that we literally had to take these legal documents. I can tell you one of the cases we worked on was Exxon Valdez, right?
Oh yeah.
Or yeah, or the Spotted Owl. I can't tell you what we did, but we were basically getting, I mean, hundreds of thousands of documents that we had to code into a machine. We had to put it all in so that the lawyers at the DOJ could do a term search and they could find a document. Then they would come to us and say, "Can you give us these documents for review?" So we were called coders. So we put that stuff in. Well, I found a way to automate that, right? I said, "Why do we need to do all this? We can literally run this stuff through a computer and it can pull out these terms and put it in." So I started to build programs to do that. And so the vice president there said, "Oh, you know something about computers?" Yeah. So they promoted me to a research analyst that did computer work, right? And they created a position for me. This was just amazing. And I had a window seat. I was on this big floor, but they put me by the window, which I absolutely loved. And I supported staff as well. We did some tech support. So, with all of that said, I was promoted. I think I made 743 an hour at that point.
Huge.
Right? So so then someone else recognizes me and said, you've got some talent in computer technology. You should go after this thing called a CNE. And I was like, what's a CNE? Certified Novell Engineer. Nothing about Novell, nothing about networking. He said, look at me. He worked in the actual computer department. I was outside the department. They didn't like me because I kind of did their job, and they were, but the guy took me under his wing and said, you should go get this CNE. And I'll tell you why. You see that car out there? That's my car. I paid off all my debt and I got this car because I got my CNE and they had to pay me more money. So guess what, buddy? I started to take a class like at Phoenix, right? I started to take classes to learn how to become a certified Novell engineer. Two things came out of that. Number one, I got another job. So they weren't going to elevate me. One thing I did learn about my career was that when you work in the same job, and probably this is not great advice for everybody who works for me, but sometimes when you work in the same job, your qualifications might go up, but guess what? The salary doesn't go along the same way, right? So when I jumped to a new job, I got a bump, right? And I went to work for a company in Baltimore City. That's a whole nother story. I'll tell you about that in a minute. But as an IT director, can you imagine that? Why?
Wow.
Because I had a CNE. It was simply that back then certifications were new, Ben, you remember that, and people were paying folks who could get these certifications. I took 6 tests, I passed them all, I became a CNE, and they gave me an IT director job, right?
That's
So
so the value of computer certifications, IT certifications, and then cybersecurity certifications, that all really exploded in the late 90s. It started really kind of becoming a big thing as computers started to integrate into every aspect of our lives.
yes.
Um, and that's how I started as well. I mean, that's how I got into what I got into, which is the training industry, and then one thing led to another, and Phoenix TS was born, where we're still working. So I totally get that. Do you think now today IT and cybersecurity certifications, of course, they've matured a lot. How do you compare the two, in terms of what kind of value they had back then and the kind of value they have today?
Oh, my friend, that is a wonderful question because they're not the same. Like I said, when I received when I achieved, I don't want to say received, no one gave it to me. I had to work for it, right? But when I achieved my CNE, one, there weren't many folks on the planet who had that, so that put me amongst the elite. Two is that you really had to work for it. I mean, I've got book, man. I could show you my shelf. I still have my CNE books. And you were getting into all kinds of encoding schemes. You had to know Manchester differential. You had to be like electrical engineer almost at some levels, right? You had to do board level, diagnoses and things like that. So it was real. You were really into computers, right? Today, I think there are some certifications that are worth their salt, right? That you cannot, there's no way to fake it. You've got to know how to apply your knowledge, right? And you've got to have a broad sense of knowledge. But I think there are very few. Back in those days, your MCSE, your CNE, those were worth, a lot of people frowned on the MCSE back then, but no, in the
That's
early
where I
days,
started with the
yeah,
MCSE. Yeah.
but in those days, it really was a certification. Here's where I bring it to today. Everybody wants to have a certification, and they want as many members or certification holders as possible because that valid for them that validates the certification, which means that there are people who hold that certification that probably don't maybe deserve it, didn't truly work for it, or the certification itself is built on nothing that is worthwhile.
I've noticed that in so many ways it's become a baseline. It's like, well, everyone's got a certification. What else you got?
Mm,
Whereas maybe before, like I got into it, I did developer certifications because I was a programmer. I got a computer science degree, so and then I also got into networking and I got into MCSC certifications, and my pay jumped. I mean, 10 times very
yes,
quickly. But
yes,
now it just feels like that's just basically like if you have to, like, Beta, my daughter, um, whom you know very well,
yeah, I do.
is yes. So she graduated with a cybersecurity degree from the University of Maryland. The very next thing she had to do was get certifications
Yeah,
because otherwise she wasn't going to find that it is just a degree isn't going to be enough. So it's almost like it's become a baseline. But you're right. It also the value of any one certification has eroded, right? So you have to either get a lot of them or get the ones that are truly
yes,
have a real clear meaning for you or meaning for the kind or value for the kind of work that you want to do.
yeah.
Anyway, so the certification you got, said CNE really kind of got you started. Um, yeah, let's fast forward to your career with ISC squared. How did you get into that, and what did you do with them? ISC squared being a certification body, right?
Yes, yes, yes. Um, well, let's see. Funny enough, after I left, uh, so I went to work for a company called Education Alternatives, Tesseract, after working with the litigation support company, and this was in Baltimore City, which was a very interesting. It was some interesting times. But the exposure I had to education and technology was interesting because we were putting computers into elementary and middle schools, and even Baltimore City Public High School there. And so we were putting computer labs. This was the first time truly these inner city schools had like computer labs. I had to manage those and computers in each classroom. But after that, I went back to that litigation support company in a whole different role. I met um, a lady there who became a recruiter, and she went to recruit for ISC Squared. And she said, I know a person who would be great, just absolutely great at supporting this because he's a CNE. He's got these other certifications. I was doing Microsoft by that time. I was training and all that stuff. And she said, why don't you come and interview for this, Claude? It's with ISC Squared. I didn't really know who ISC Squared was at the time. And so I said, okay, well, this is great. I'll give it a try. What does it hurt? And at the time, they weren't hiring for technology folks. They were actually hiring for sales. And so I went in. I was talking about all my technical experience, and they were like, "Well, what do you do in sales?" I said, "Well, I'm a trainer. So training is like sales. I have to sell the product and the certification and the knowledge every day." Believe it or not, they went for it, and they put me on their staff as the director of strategic alliances. So my job was to work with IBM because we had IBM Canada, to work with a company back then called CA, Computer Associates, before they rebranded to CA. I went out and I made partnerships for ISC Squared to teach CISSP and to certify folks through these partnerships. So that was a lot of fun because I like to talk. I like to build relationships. And so as the director of strategic alliances, I was so I guess I was kind of good at my job that I got a promotion. I received a promotion to vice president of sales and marketing for ISC Squared, right? And so my job was the operational side, to do the marketing on the operational side, to handle the sales side as far as our exams were concerned and all that stuff, integrating with the other aspects and components of ISC Squared. And I absolutely love traveling the world and talking about CISSP, talking about what we were doing with the SSCP, so on and so forth. And immediately once I took the job, by the way, I studied for my CISSP. I literally would lay on my couch and I would read the CISSP book, and I said, "How can you sell something, if you never experienced it?" And so I said, "I'm going to eat my own dog food," and went through and got certified back in 2003 as a CISSP member. So
Amazing.
yeah,
So you'd built your own business in music, then you got into computers, you were teaching and doing the work of, and it feels like that was the missing piece, right? The sales aspect of it, even though you had built your own business and built partnerships before. But now you're working for a globally recognized, at least in the security world,
yes,
organization. Um, let's have you pat yourself on the back. Tell me about the size of the membership in ISC Squared before you joined and when you left. The
certainly.
difference.
It was definitely big. So let me say it this way. There might be some fact finders out there who so I don't want to fudge it, right?
Yeah.
But I will tell you, when I started, I know in 2000, before I started, we had about 2,000 members. I've been told that many times. By the time I joined, we had probably just gotten into five digits, maybe, 10,000. I know by the time that my tenure there was done, which was about 2008, somewhere in there, we were definitely approaching 100,000 members.
My
And
goodness.
I don't want to necessarily pat myself on the back. I mean, it was collaborative, right? I mean, I had to work with my marketing folks. ISC Squared, what we call ISC Squared proper, the folks that were in Palm Harbor. Those folks did the strategic marketing. I did operational marketing. They did a tremendous job there at what, at helping to grow the business because they were responsible for brand awareness. It just so happens that when someone was to speak on it, 9 times out of 10, it was Claude. So I traveled. I went to China, for goodness sakes, talking about CISSP. That was interesting. I went to Finland, places I never thought I'd go. Copenhagen, talking about CISSP. So working on that team, let's just say that. And I have some pictures. I wish I could put them up here on the screen, but I have some pictures of where we won the
I can
global
send it
award.
to me later. I'll
Okay,
edit it in.
fair
Yeah.
enough. And the whole team, the chairman of CISS, I'm sorry, of ISC squared, and all of the major managers, we won the global award for security certification, for security training, year after year. And I think we just had the right mix, the right chemistry, the right messaging, for what we were doing in professionalizing the cybersecurity workforce.
That's amazing. How did we get to know each other? I don't even remember. I think you were one of our trainers. Did you
Yes.
get in? So when you left IC Squared, did you get into training by
Yeah.
yourself, independent? Is that what it was?
So when I was done with IC squared, and why I'll tell you why I left. I certainly was enjoying it. I was growing in the sales and marketing area, but I really love security, right? And I wanted to be a security practitioner. I really just wanted to go and do that stuff, right? So I enjoyed my time there, but I thought, hey, let me launch out on my own, start a new business. Let me launch out on my own and start a cybersecurity consultancy. And but the way to fund it was training. It goes back to what I had been doing for many years, which I loved like I said, love helping people. So I went into training, and so I was doing a lot of contract training on CISSP, on CISM, things like that. Even some, even some technology type training. And I came across Phoenix TS. And so I came along and did some training for you guys. Love the environment because that environment's still true to this day. It's like a family atmosphere. Just looking at all the employees and how happy they were to be there and how gracious they were with the students. And, they just appreciated the students and they gave that love back to the students. The environment was just great. So I love training there. So I trained there every chance I could. And then we
Thank you.
met, man.
I'll send you the check later.
No, it's true. It really is true. It
Thank
really
you.
is true.
Thank you. Well, it was great. And that's how, you started teaching for us
Yeah.
as a contract trainer. And so you would come and go and teach for us whenever we needed you. And I think it was sometime around 2011, 2012, maybe?
2012 going into 2013. Yeah.
Yeah,
2012.
okay. That
Yep.
all of a sudden our VP of sales quit and we're like, okay, we don't have someone to run our sales. What do we do? And that day you were teaching
Right.
and you came into my office and you're like, I hear you're looking for you got to run your sales. And we haven't looked back since. You were really, I mean, I just want to say how much I appreciated you. And at this point, it sounds really kind of self-serving, but really, honestly, it was a great. I mean, we're like, okay, let's do this since you did so well with ISC squared, and you really, we still to this day, I think are reaping the rewards of the time when you were running our sales organization.
Oh, now
And
now
even
you're
that,
now
I
you're
think,
buttering me up.
I know, right? Well, it's kind of, we're buttering each other up. It's terrible. It's terrible. All right, let's stop. But, the fact is, when you first came into my office and you said, would you like to, I think this is how I remember it, do you need a VP of sales? You also said, and I'd love to start a consulting company with you. Didn't you say that like that day one or something? Or
Flip
no?
it. Flip it. Because I didn't know your VP of sales left. I came to you and I said, hey, have you ever thought about starting a consulting side of
That's what
Phoenix?
it.
Yeah. So I saw you in the break room, and we had already chatted a little bit, but I was like, you know, I was doing training as a way to try to get consulting gigs. And I was thinking with all of the students that are coming through here, oh
Yeah.
man, this would be easy, right? So I came to you and said, why don't we start Phoenix CS?
Yeah.
All right, instead, right?
Consulting services. Yeah.
Consulting services. And you were like, well, I don't know about that. Our VP of sales is gone. And,
Ah.
and then I was like, oh, your VP of sales is gone.
Yeah,
And
my
I
wife
mentioned,
always tells me that I make up stuff all the time, and I need somebody to correct my
no,
memory. So
no,
okay,
no, no, no. This is good. This is good.
so this worked. All right. So from there, I just kept pushing the whole consulting idea aside. I was like, we'll do it.
Yes.
We'll do it someday.
Yes.
We'll do it
Yes.
someday.
You're right.
Um, but we got to build up our training side. We got to focus, right?
That's what you said over and
Yeah,
over.
yeah, over and over. And you kept asking.
Yeah.
You kept at it. You kept
Yeah.
at it until I finally gave in. And on May the 4th, I'll never forget because that's Star Wars Day and we both are
Yes,
Star
sir.
Wars fans. On May the
Yes, sir.
4th of 2016, we registered CyNtell, right? So you are the CEO of CyNtell, and again, we have to be honest, I'm a shareholder, but it is, I basically helped you start your business,
Absolutely.
and it is your business. You're a majority owner, and but I said, okay, here's a little bit of support because I really can't help you that much. And I got to say, I'm watching you build Centel honestly from really nothing. It was more like, here's some office space and here's a couple of bucks. Honestly, you really did start Centel from scratch with not much to go by.
Mm.
And you were running Centel as VP of Sales of Phoenix TS and CEO of Centel both for a couple of years. You didn't really go full time with Centel until 2018, and then like a couple of years later, COVID started,
Oh, man.
and so
Yes.
that really brought us back, and we it took a while for Centel to really get going. Right now, Centel is um, is in the middle of a great, huge growth spurt. Lots of opportunities coming your way. Um, and you really worked very, very hard to bootstrap it. Again, not much money in terms of investment. We're not big, huge business people here. We're small business. But Centel is showing a huge growth potential and growth spurt at this point. Um, Tell me about the kinds of projects that you guys are doing these days.
Certainly. Well, first again, I'm going to thank you because you are a man of your word. We said we'd get that consulting, that consultancy up and running, and eventually we certainly did. So I greatly appreciate that. I greatly appreciate your trust in me as well. I mean, it it, it takes a big man to say, "Hey, I'm going to one give you majority ownership." Of this thing, and number two, and I trust you on that, and then two, to support me for those 2 years. Honestly, I mean that was support to allow me to get this thing off the ground, and then to continue to trust me for the years that we've been in business, that we are going to make something good out of this thing. And so the level of success that we have achieved to this point, I do contribute to your mentorship. You've taught me a lot. No, you have. I mean, you really have. I remember very specific points where you said this or that, and I'm like, I didn't like it at the time, but when I reflect on it, I'm like, dang, if he wasn't right, those types of things. So I'm quicker to listen to you now because you've paved that path, right? But yes, honestly, this has been a great team effort to get us to where we are. With that being said, CyNtell has such promise, because I think we understand ourselves a lot better. One of the lessons learned from 2016 through now, 2025, is to really find your identity, right? And then, as you said many times, focus, right? So once you identify who or what the organization, what you want it to be, and what it can be and how it can serve. As you know, I'm a staunch Christian, right? I believe in the values, biblical values, and with that, treating people right and being fair and equitable towards people. Even though fair is not in the Bible, justice itself, by definition, is a level of fairness. So being just when you're dealing with your employees, having a heart for other people. You've taught me that as well. But at the same time, you taught me, when things aren't working, you're not doing anybody justice if you don't address that. Right? And so I think the promise that we have is that we understand our identity now. We've got projects that really reflect what we do well. We're not just scattered all over the place trying to do this and be this for one organization and be this for a different organization, or try to meet Ben's expectations or Claude's expectations. We have a defined way forward for what we want to do in the industry, which we believe, honestly, where we live is an area of differentiation when it comes to others that claim to be doing the same thing we're doing. So to answer your question, some of the projects we're working on, we've got our government side, we've got our commercial side. The biggest thing for us is what we're doing through a channel. We are not doing direct sales. We are building partnerships, vast partnerships with MSPs, with organizations that are VARs and integrators. We are building a channel which will allow CyNtell to grow exponentially year after year, instead of, and it's all organic, right? But instead of saying, hey, let's hire a sales force of 100 people and bang out phone calls, which, lessons learned, that doesn't always work, especially in the industry we're in, that is very personal when it comes to security. We're building a channel which means there's already existing relationships with our partners. Those partners have relationships with the customers. The customers trust them. Therefore, through that, they trust CyNtell. And we're able to go in and give true advisory and consultative services to those customers. That's a differentiator. That's a game changer. We're not trying to build up from scratch. We're coming in vouched for, right? Just like the mob. So.
And the kinds of projects now, I mean, we started out kind of helping small, accounting and financial advisor offices, right? That was kind of the very,
Sure.
very start of CyNtell. Right now, you're helping city utilities, securing, utilities at a city level across the country. You're securing government buildings and military buildings against unauthorized mobile and wireless networks. You are helping small and medium and a couple of large businesses with their cybersecurity compliance. And tell me more about the kinds of things you're doing. Just real quick, in terms of the kinds of projects
Sure.
you're dealing with now, 9 years in.
Sure. So let's go back for a second, because remember, we had to eat, right? We thought we got into this thinking, government business was just going to lay itself at our feet because they need cybersecurity. That didn't happen. We went out and got our hub zone designation. We thought that was the way, that business did not lay itself at our feet. We got our 8A. Business did not lay itself. We got our facility clearance.
None of that is a
Well,
sure thing. And we got to,
yeah,
exactly. Until that facility clearance still, yeah.
yeah, exactly. But we still progressed. I mean, we've got some good contracts in place. And one of our early, so we went out to the commercial space and we started working with investment advisor firms. And I just wanted to mention that I'm very proud of the fact that one of the first ones we signed up, I want to say it was our first one, is still with us today.
Amazing.
Right? Amazing. It really is. A great customer. We've built a great relationship. And that's the types of things that CyNtell enjoys doing. That's what we believe we do very well, is build those deep, lasting relationships with our customers, because they trust us and we actually trust them, and we talk it out. Now, when it comes to the projects we're working on, Ben, you summarized it extremely well. I mean, we started off being like a turnkey solution to investment advisor firms and brokers, right? Turnkey, from everything from writing policies to actually trying to help them operationalize those policies. And then we kind of moved on from there. We became an MSSP, where we actually secure, like you said, cities today from an MSSP perspective, providing a 24/7 SOC or managing their firewalls, things like that. Number of cities and more coming on board. In addition to that, the scary word, where I'm scared today, is the word compliance, because I get this from our customers all the time. I need to do this because it's a compliance requirement. It's not, I need to do this because it's good security, because I want to be more secure. So even in the cities that we work with, they're trying to check a box that says we're compliant. The good news is, again, we've built deep relationships where we can have discussions with cities and say, look, let's do this, not just because it's a compliance requirement, because it's good security, right? So we're working in, the wastewater and drinking water industry with a number of cities. And that has been a lot of fun, because I'm going to tell you, their security, no offense to any city who's might be listening, but that cities are still in the 1990s when it comes to security,
Well, lack
and
of
we're trying to
budget.
jack into the 20s.
Yeah, I mean, lack of budget, but also, uh, they've got so many different budgetary priorities,
Yes.
and security just kind of keeps falling by the wayside.
Oh, yeah. And most of the folks that are actually engaging in security, they're the plant managers. They're not cyber folks. They're not even IT folks, right? So we're diving into this a little bit deeper so that we can help in this industry. That's what we want to do. We don't want to we're not in it just to make a dollar. I want to be honest with you. My desire is to literally help um, the nation, right? Protect its citizens. I want to do that with all my heart. Is if we can help with drinking water and wastewater and help secure that, we're helping the citizens of America, right? What we're doing with the government as far as secured spaces and SCIFs, where we're actually putting in these sensors that will detect personal electronic devices where they shouldn't be. They shouldn't be in those areas. Eavesdropping equipment that shouldn't be in these areas where these classified conversations are going on. I love that mission that we have. I love that part of what we do as CyNtell, because again, we're helping the nation and we're helping the citizens. We're doing something that's impactful, and that's my passion, right? I really want to be able to help people. So projects like that, and we've got lots of them. We're working with the Marines, we're working with the State Department, we're working with the IC, the intelligence community. We're all over the place when it comes to facility support in that way, securing those areas. And then, of course, we're helping with the compliance stuff. We have customers that come to us that have PCI DSS requirements, they have CMMC requirements, and a lot of them, the big boys, they get it. They can invest in someone to really go and learn it. But what we're doing is we're working with the smalls and mediums and saying, look, if you don't understand this landscape, first, let's discuss it. Let me impart knowledge. If it's not me as one of my subject matter, let's impart knowledge so you know what's expected of you and what the compliance requirements truly are, and where you should spend your money and how quickly should you go there. You being the CMMC, Cyber AB board member and creating all of the training and all that stuff and helping out and
Ex board
yeah,
member.
whatever, man. Yes, X. I guess if you have to say former, I don't even like X, former, but you're steeped in this and you understand it. There are so many folks in the DIB that just don't get it and they don't even know where to start. And it's been an honor to work with a lot of these companies to say, look, here's what we know. Here's what it means for you. And have them say, thank you. At least I'm getting an honest opinion of whether I should move forward, whether I should wait, and if I move forward, how should I budget for it? So those are just three areas that we are in that are just exciting for me to kind of throw out there to you. I love the all three of those particular areas where we are supporting cities, we're supporting the federal government, and we're supporting the DIB, the Defense Information Base.
Yeah. So the I mean, the growth's been amazing, and I've watched how hard you work. So I'm interested in understanding, and you are a man of God. You're a very, very strong practicing Christian, and I think that can be a strong motivator. You have a wonderful family. You have five kids?
Nope, four.
Four. Okay. Losing count.
Don't give me
And
another
then
one right now.
I
I'm
know, I know.
almost.
You've had enough. Yeah. So your kids are a big motivator. But honestly, there are a lot of religious people who have kids who may not be as maybe successful as hardworking as you are. What um what is your the kinds of values, what are your motivators that get you up in the morning?
Um, what motivates me is really hope. Um, again, many years ago, I was consulting training, and I trained at the U.S. Senate. The chaplain of the Senate um, actually would give these Bible studies, and I would attend. I didn't work at the Senate, but he extended it to me and said, you can come and you can participate in our Bible study. And Ogilvy was his the chairman at I'm sorry, was the chaplain at the time. Oh, and just a wonderful man, just a godly man, just full of spiritual goodness. He wrote a paper we were to study. It was about hope. And I don't know why, but I had never made the connection between Christ and hope to something, it was just a little thing which made sense, but I just didn't make. And I was like, hope, God gives me more than just hope, but at its core it is. And so I'll tell you that I wake up every day with the hope this day is going to yield, the promise. God has things for you. He has his will. And I wake up every day with the hope that I will live within his will, and that his will for me is prosperity, and no matter how that comes, whether I'm rich in love and family or friends like you, and or if it's in some type of monetary wealth. I wake up every day that if I do my part, the hope is that God will maintain his promises. And I know he will. It's not just a hope. I know he will. But I wake up with that idea of hope. I never, no matter how bad the day is, I wake up refreshed the next day. And there's a spiritual song, a gospel song that says, "No need to worry what the night is going to bring. It'll be all over in the morning." And I truly believe in that. And then from there, it is living the biblical principles of do unto others, people will say, or don't do to people what you wouldn't want them to do to you. However you want to look at that. But, treating people with respect, giving them the benefit of the doubt, even though they may be nasty to you. Well, what's happening in their world? And I can't control how people act towards me, but I can choose how I react to their actions. Right. And I truly believe that, if you were angry, right, me coming back with anger, that doesn't help the situation, right? But if you're angry with me or about something, and I share a smile, or I share a laugh, or I'm just patient, that can change things. It affects me less, but it may even have an impact on how you feel about what you're saying, what you're doing, or how you feel about a situation. And so I really try to live by biblical principles when it comes to relating to other people. Because God, last thing I'll say about it here, because I know I'm going long, but when you think about the 10 Commandments, if you're a biblical person, realize the first set of commandments are how we are to respond to God, how we are to treat God. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt have no other gods before me, shall create no idols, so on and so forth. But then it's across how we are supposed to relate to one another, right? So thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not covet. Those are how we're supposed to relate to each other. And I truly try to take those biblical principles because I love God, and now apply that, because he says the two greatest commandments: love God with all your heart, mind, and soul. This is what Jesus says. And then he says, uh, treat your neighbor, right, as you would treat yourself. And so I think if I live by those principles, honor God first, and then treat people the way God would want me to treat them, that there can't be anything but positivity. And again, I hope to goodness, Ben, that your investment in time and me and our business grows to a level that we couldn't even imagine. I really, truly want that. And I'm working towards that. But no matter what, along the way, if we've hurt people, if we stepped on people, if we didn't treat people with respect, we don't treat our customers with respect and honor and so on and so forth, then what have we accomplished? Because we're not going to be able to take anything with us. We want to live, and I know you do as well. We want to live in such a way that we leave a legacy to our children. I know how much you love your children, man. And you want to leave a legacy, and that legacy isn't just financial. That legacy is its principles, its values, right? That's the same thing for me, man. As I look at my first grandchild now, who's a year old, I want to leave a legacy where she can look and say, Grandpa, no matter what he built, he was a good person.
Yeah, amazing. And I could see that. I could see the values that you live by every day that we've worked together. They're very powerful, very, very powerful. Beautiful, beautifully said. Thank you for sharing.
Man,
Um,
I'm still human though. I'm gonna mess up, so you got to forgive me. I'm asking for forgiveness ahead of time.
it's all good, man. Well, I don't know if I could forgive you for being a grandfather and looking younger than me. I don't know if I could forgive you for that one, but the rest,
Oh,
yes,
stop.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm not even a grandfather. So then let's talk technical here a little bit, and kind of finish off our conversation with some of the things you're doing today. And I guess if a security professional, or if someone who's an aspiring security professional, a student, or someone who may be interested in what security has to offer, was listening, give us some nuggets on the kinds of threats you guys are dealing with today. What are the latest and greatest in terms of, maybe AI, or what are some of the latest threats and some of the latest techniques you can think of, um, that you are handling?
Yeah. Uh, so Ben, you nailed it um, perfectly when you said AI. AI is extremely scary. Okay. And I can tell you what my thoughts are on where this is going to go. But honestly, AI today, where is AI helping the bad guys be successful is in the area of phishing attacks, right? So it used to be a time where we could identify a phishing email by the misspellings. We could identify it by, the grammatical aspects of it and that type. Not today, buddy. Not today. So, I received an email. I noticed that into our accounting department, someone sent a phishing email and it really did look like it came from me, right? So AI is enhancing the bad guys' capabilities. So a couple of things are true. CyNtell has just launched a whole AI, if you will, portfolio of services where we can look at your acceptable use policy around AI. We can look at your data governance around AI. So we have a whole set because we believe that's where the truly emerging threats of today and tomorrow are going to be coming from, is that AI. And it may be even from an insider, right? I mean, accidental or unintentional, just because of the use of AI. That could lead to data spillage, those types of things. So we're seeing a number of our customers falling for these phishing attacks, because your question was, where are we fighting the battle now? Phishing attacks have become big, and people are just sending off, they're ACHing money to these because they look legitimate. Some other areas that we're finding that we're having to, as a 24 by 7 SOC, which CyNtell is a 24 by 7 SOC with other MSSP services.
Okay, SOC stands for
Sorry, Security Operations Center.
yeah,
So if
and
you're a medium to
MSSP
small,
is Managed Security Service Provider, right?
yes, sir.
Just
Yes, sir.
yeah.
Nope, I appreciate that. So if for companies that can't afford to have these expertise, some companies try to get their MSP to do it, and I always tell them your MSP's job is to focus on IT.
Yeah, because
You
they're
need
just
someone,
managed service provider, not security
right?
service, not MSSPs, but
Correct.
they're MSPs. Yeah.
Correct. Correct. And that's why we partner with a lot of MSPs. But what we're certainly finding is identity theft. We monitor like M365. We're finding a lot of identity theft, which we're seeing a lot of access tokens that are intercepted and then used to access other applications. Um, Ransomware is still prevalent. I mean, it is still a big issue for folks. And, so those are areas that are still threats and they're still profitable to the bad guys. If I were getting into the industry and I was a professional that was, just starting off in my profession, I would focus on things along the lines of AI, though, because machines can do it better. They can do it faster. They can do it repeatedly. They can do it without taking a break. They just can constantly hit you, and they're constantly learning. And so, whatever we can do to combat AI with AI, that's probably the area I would go into.
Yeah, I'm noticing the emails that come to me. I have a bunch of different email accounts, right? Like most people, and they're all getting way better. Usually,
Yeah.
I used to tell from like the title and just not even. Now I
Yeah.
go in, and a lot of times the only way I can tell is from just like going in and looking at the sender. And if the sender
Yes.
isn't from the domain,
Yes.
that's the only way I can tell. Because a lot of times, otherwise, I really can't tell anymore. And I count myself as being pretty savvy. So you're absolutely right. Um, and a lot of times, even the domain can be spoofed, right? And so
Yes.
that sometimes is even so. It's a pretty scary world out there, right?
Oh yeah.
How are you having your customers, like, do they, I mean, I guess I'm interested in the training side. Do they get a lot of training? Maybe you can introduce them to us. But besides that, um, how you said something that's interesting. What are the tools? I guess you gotta have the right tools, but how are you fighting AI with AI? How does that happen?
Yeah, so what you need to what you want is so Microsoft Copilot. I don't know if you know Microsoft rebranded Microsoft 365. It's now just called Microsoft Copilot. Yeah. And the reason being is because now you can embed learning in like those emails, right? So it can identify, oh, this is not from an internal domain, right? Or it can learn. I mean, I got an email the other day. It was a phishing email that went to accounting and said it was from me, saying, yes, please pay the attached invoice from Salesforce. Okay, so they use Salesforce. And in the email from Salesforce, the fake email, was actually below, and it literally had my email address in it. Okay. Because the machine or a person typed out my email address. So if you're not paying close attention, you may have ACH that money, you may have transferred that money. So what we're trying to do is what any organization should do is see where AI can be wrapped into their tool set to analyze this stuff and look for those patterns and then learn from okay, well, you missed this one, AI, but learn from this. Click, learn, and let it go through and say, okay, the structure of this email, where it's from, how, when it arrived, the time it takes, those types of things, so it can now give you better suggestions about what might be phishing attacks or just completely block the ones it's certain of.
You know, it's funny when in the 90s, when the World Wide Web came around, we all became, surfers.
Yes.
And then after COVID, we all became video producers. And now
Right.
I feel like we're all becoming, AI directors. And,
Right.
we're using AI to do all our work, using ChatGPT. And so we're training our AI buddies, right? So like my ChatGPT buddy has a name, Sam, and he's like my best friend right now. I mean,
Yes.
yeah,
Right.
I really see a future where our kids are going to grow up having AI friends and not human friends as much. Who knows? It's kind of dystopian and scary, but it's a
Yes,
probably
it is.
extreme. We'll have both types of friends. We'll have both types of friends. We'll have AI friends and human friends. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. In any case, so what we're saying here is we have to learn to use our AI buddies effectively. We have to become
Yes.
AI trainers, AI, directors, basically, in allowing them to help us as much as possible, because otherwise we're going to fall behind. Thank you, Claude. This is our time together, but I've learned so much already. We've worked together for like more than a decade, like 15 years now, and I've learned so much already in an hour of sitting. We should have these conversations more often and talk more about these things as opposed to at work. Um,
Yes, sir.
yeah, and I feel like there's so much more to come. So maybe we'll talk again and just discuss the latest and greatest with CyNtell at some point.
That'd be awesome. I enjoy my time with you. That's for certain. And I'm very, again, I want to say kudos to you for actually starting this podcast. And I know that you're going to be hugely successful with it, man. No, you've got the personality. You've got insightful questions. You dig out the stuff that I probably didn't want to talk about. So, but the broad spectrum of the conversations you're having and the people you're having, man, it can't be anything but successful. But any way that I can support you, I'm there for you. And I like to talk, so you call me anytime.
Yeah, this is going to be great. Yeah. Well, thank you, Claude, for the kind words, and thank you for being an inspiration to us, to all the people that work with us, to your family. So you really are an inspiration. So you do inspire me, Claude, and I really do enjoy working with you. Anyway, enough of us basically, going back and forth with all this amazing stuff. I hope that our
Sure.
audience also learned something about you. And the fact is, check out CyNtell, cyntell.com, CYNTELL.com. Claude Williams, Chief Executive and founder of CyNtell. Now you know so much about him. So definitely you want to work with him. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Claude.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's a wrap on today's episode of Tech Tales with Ben Tchoubineh. We hope you enjoyed the stories and insights from some of the brightest minds in the tech industry. Make sure to like and subscribe, leave a review, and join us for more inspiring tales from the world of technology. Stay curious, stay connected, and as always, thanks for tuning in. This is Ben Tchoubineh, signing off. See you next time.